Hey everyone, this is Doug with B&H. Sometimes production undergoes a massive change and we need brand new tools to really get our heads wrapped around it. Let me show you what I mean by using the latest product from Atomos, the Shogun Inferno. We'll show you how it helps in the field and in the editing suite with a focus on the hot new word these days, HDR. Continuing in Atomos' line of monitor recorders, the Shogun Inferno brings everything to the table. ProRes and DNxHR recording are supported up to 4K at 60 FPS, though RAW is also coming with a free firmware update to support Arri, Panasonic, Sony, and Canon cameras. The monitor itself features quad SDI inputs, an HDR-capable 7-inch 1500 nit calibrated display, 10-bit color depth, 3D LUT support, and full PQ/HLG input and playback compatibility. Whew. But what is HDR? HDR refers to a few new standards that widen the available brightness range that you can utilize in a display. This is not the same as HDR in photography, which aims to maximize highlight and shadow detail in the same space by merging subsequent frames at different exposure levels. Cameras today have much more dynamic range than ever, and you'll find that using a log mode can capture a lot more detail than you might have expected. The Shogun Inferno, along with the Atomos Flame series, are particularly equipped for log capture, so that every major camera log format can be viewed in HDR in real time. HDR calls for a bright display because, essentially, the goal is to map the recorded image to specific levels of brightness on screen. But that doesn't mean the need for standard dynamic range goes away. For HDR delivery, the Shogun Inferno's Atom HDR system provides a way to preview the final HDR result from log footage and set exposure levels perfectly. For SDR delivery, the 1500 nit screen lets you monitor outdoors in sunny conditions without a hood. With a log signal coming in, you can see here by sliding from SDR to full HDR, we're capturing far more highlights. Our camera exposure remains unchanged, though do keep in mind, you still need to stay within the dynamic range of your camera's sensor, so bright objects can still clip. To set exposure perfectly for your scene, the Hdr Waveform is your best friend. The waveform measures the light level as you look left to right in the frame, basically expressing the dynamic range for your scene. Using the HDR slider until the graticule touches the top of the waveform accurately tells you what the final HDR result will look like. And now, you can make an informed decision on exposure. Since Rec. 709 is extremely limited in dynamic range, only really offering about 5 to 6 stops, a lot of the work put into color grading is actually tied up compressing and expressing that information in the 709 space. A log image is flat because it's fitting all that detail into the limited range. Ensuring you capture log with the correct exposure is crucial in determining what you can do with the image in post. Exposing log on an SDR monitor with a LUT applied, by nature, forces you to stop down and expose in SDR range. By exposing lower, the signal goes into the noisier portion of the sensor, often affecting shadows. When using Atom HDR, you can open up the signal far beyond what an SDR LUT can resolve. Secondly, by having an expanded signal that uses more of the camera sensor, we are now in a better position to be able to master in HDR, and of course, SDR too. If you shoot at optimum exposure, this footage can be retrieved years down the line and be remastered for HDR. This is where things get tricky. Chances are you're watching this video online, so we can't really show you how HDR looks. But let's see how the Shogun Inferno plays along when grading this footage in DaVinci Resolve. The Inferno supports PQ, or perceptual quantization, HDR signals, both in and out, meaning you can use the device to play back to a larger HDR monitor, or in this case, use it to properly monitor HDR content created in the grading suite. Compare the shot on our SDR screen and then on the Shogun Inferno. We can't replicate the effect here, but notice the dull log-like appearance of the footage on the SDR display versus the bright, colorful image on the HDR display. This isn't due to a LUT or any kind of compensation. This is what HDR does. All your highlights utilize the brightest parts of the screen, while the shadows stay dark. If you crank the brightness on a standard display, you get a bright image, but a washed out image. And that's because SDR images aren't designed to place their shadows, midtones, and highlights along the entire range of the display. So there you have it. From start to finish, the Atomos Shogun Inferno makes HDR a reality. The best part is that it supports the vast majority of cameras and log formats in the last few years, meaning your existing camera setup is pretty much ready for HDR. With the right workstation setup, you can then use the Inferno as an HDR-ready grading monitor to deliver the final product. From B&H, my name is Doug. Thanks for watching. Hey, this is Doug again. If you like what you saw and you want to see more videos like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel right here.